Hello, 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 and good evening. Welcome to Better Together, sharing our lupus stories. I'm Chanel Gabriel, and we are here live and talking about living our best lives with lupus. So, we're here to empower you all, those of you that are living with lupus, to be able to do amazing things. And I have my brilliant, amazing co host here with me. Joining us is the amazing Dr. Michaela Bayard, aka the Lupus Doc.
Hey
Hello.
Chanel, what amazing intro. So great to be here. Tell me how your weekend has been.
Well, this past weekend was World Lupus Day, May 10th. And so it was really, really amazing to see all the lupus warriors posting about their resilience and their experience and doing live videos. And I don't know if you all remember from our first episode this season, Ebony Michelle actually had me on her podcast, which is her first ever podcast, Proud the Lab podcast. And so I'm very, very excited. I was her guest. I was able to be a part of it. And we talked about everything from living with lupus to sexuality and lupus. I was like, ooh, I'm getting a little fresh here. But really talking about the whole, that's her work, is talking about the whole person with lupus. So that was my experience this weekend.
I love that for you. It's been an amazing month so far as Lupus Awareness Month. I've just been seeing so many people come forward, share their stories, and I've actually been having some great conversations. One of them with one of our guests today, but just talking about how people are showing up in different ways, advocating for lupus, showing up on national fronts for funding, pushing our councilmen, senators, representatives to really think about lupus. So I think it's an exciting month.
No, definitely. And last show we had an amazing conversation about lupus and the skin, and I think we're going to continue this conversation. So I'm super excited about it. We're going to talk about the part of our skin that we don't always think about, our scalp, aka our hair. So Dr. Michaela, for you, have you seen a lot of challenges with hair loss with your lupus patients?
Most definitely. I mean, we've talked about this before. It's a really common symptom, but I think it's something that brings people to the office. So, I think that it's an important symptom, but also something that can really be impactful.
No, definitely, definitely. And I mean, for me, it definitely was a part of my lupus journey. I actually, what made me go to the doctor was me losing my hair. I was able to explain away the fatigue. I'm like, oh, I'm tired. I could explain the joint pain. I was active physically, but when I lost my hair, that no, I had to go to the doctor right away. And so for many of us, our hair is our pride and joy. So to see it thin out this way, right? To lose our hair, yeah, that's a problem. So definitely was a challenge.
Yeah, it's huge. And when we talk about lupus, we talk so much about it being invisible, but this is a really visible symptom. So I think it's such an important topic that we're hitting today, beneath the surface, lupus, and the skin. So our guests have had some powerful experiences, Chanel. They'll be sharing their journeys. We're going to be getting medical wisdom. We're getting the whole spectrum.
Yes, yes. And so excited to introduce our guest. Our first guest is going to be Camille Campbell, who is a dedicated educator, graduate student. Oh, not wrong, Camille. That's Camilla. So
Yay.
I had this feeling we had such similar names here, right? Camille Campbell is a dedicated educator, graduate student, represented originally from Jamaica, but now based in Stamford, Connecticut. And she was diagnosed with lupus in 2019. And you're passionate about sharing your journeys. We're so excited to have you. And I know you're an educator, so the school year is winding down. Are we excited for the summer?
Very excited.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Welcome, Camille Campbell. Now, next we have Camilla Gilliard. Now we have Camilla. And Camilla is a lupus warrior and longtime patient advocate who was born and raised in Queens, New York, and was diagnosed at 17. Her doctor told her not to go to college, and she ignored him and graduated from Penn State while making speeches and writing essays for courses about how lupus impacted her. So now Millie uses her talents as an actor and writer to advocate for those battling lupus alongside her. Fun fact: she likes to travel, so I know you just got back from a quick trip somewhere for your birthday. Where'd you go?
Did. I went on a cruise with my sister. We visited Belize, Honduras, Costa Maya, and Cozumel.
Ooh,
Ooh.
living it up. Well, we're so glad to have you back because you were on this show season one. So come some time
Yeah,
ago.
glad to
Perfect.
be back.
Glad to have you back. And joining us to bring in her expertise in dermatology, welcome Dr. Dina Strawn. Dr. Dina, hello.
Hi. Hi, nice to be here.
Nice to have you. Now, just introducing you, Dr. Strawn, I'm sorry, Dr. Dina is an internationally recognized Harvard and Yale educated board certified dermatologist, best-selling author, consultant, and speaker. And she's the director of Aglow Dermatology in NYC and founder of the National Directory website, findablackdoctor.com. And I mean, Dr. Dina's been on it been cited in New York Times, Dr. Oz Show, Essence, Rolling Stone, Good Morning America. You've done so much great work, and you can also see her on Netflix in the docuseries Black Beauty Effect. So, yes, round of applause to you, Dr. Dina. All the great work you're
Yeah,
doing.
thank you.
We have some great guests. We have one more who's going to be joining us for our segment Spotlight on Research, and that is Dr. Ashwin Boda. And he has been working in the rheumatology research field for the last 16 years. He has been the Research Operations Director at PCCR Solutions for the past 8 years, and today we'll be getting a really great understanding of the different phases of clinical trials. So, welcome, Ashwin.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Oh, so glad to have this full house. And we thank you so much for coming in. And we have some additional guests. This is a full house here. You know who the additional guests are? All of you that are watching at home, you are part of this show. So if you like anything you hear, feel free to comment, ask questions in the chat. We are here. But first, everybody, write in the chat real quick. Let us know where you are from. Where are you from? Well, we're going to get into this show. I'm so excited.
Yes, I'm so excited for our first conversation. So let's put some purple hearts in the chat, keep the chat going as we welcome Camille Campbell.
Hello. So glad to have you. Um,
There we go. Welcome, Camille.
Hi.
We are so happy to have you here with us. And as we always start out, please share with us your lupus journey.
Okay, thank you for having me. So, my story is going to be rooted in my journey from California to New York 6 years ago, because that journey influenced a lot of what happened. So, back in the spring of 2019, I was living in California and I was planning to move back to New York by the summer. And so I just remember waking up one morning with intense joint pain, and it felt similar to what you would feel like if you had been exercising the day before, but I wasn't. So it was just very strange to me. And it continued on for some time, and it just got really crippling. I remember one time not being able to parallel park because my joints hurt so badly. But I delayed going to the doctor because at the time I wasn't covered by health insurance because I was doing a freelance job at the time. And so I kind of just put it off because I didn't really think it was that important. And because I just wanted to wait until I had my new job in New York City where I could get the full insurance benefits. So once I came back to New York City in June, my symptoms escalated. I moved in with my family and I started having extreme fatigue. I fell asleep everywhere I went, whether it was to a restaurant, the nail salon, a party. And I also developed a purple rash on both elbows. And it was very strange because it wasn't itchy and it was just like smooth and raised. I also needed help opening bottles. Um, and I had like a really difficult time walking. So the new job that I had, I was like interviewing for it, and like when I went on orientations for it, I remember showing up late because I was walking so slow from the train station to the building. And that's because I had underestimated the time that I would need. I didn't realize I'd be walking so slow from the pain. So I was late to work a lot, and it's like not in my nature.
Mhm.
So so eventually, like in the midst of all of this, I was making visits to the ER and to urgent care, trying to figure out what's wrong. And I remember one doctor suggested that probably it was Lyme disease or rheumatoid arthritis, but they didn't run like full comprehensive tests because of my insurance limitations. And then my first ER visit was prompted by extreme swelling in my extremities. My sister had noticed that I was like very swollen. And later on, I found out that that was because of the issues with the kidney.
Mhm.
So the one major turning point was in August 2019 when I'm on the job, I'm setting up the classroom with my co-teacher, and my principal walks in and notices that I'm sleeping while my co-teacher is setting up the classroom. Um, so she called me to the side, and like in the days leading up to this moment, she had noticed that I was late, I was sleepy, tired. And so she called me to the side and she says, Camille, I want you to go home and take care of yourself. Don't come back until you are under the care of a supervision of a doctor. Don't come back until you're being treated. You should take short-term disability. Let me know if you need anything else. And that was my last time at work during that period. So she was very helpful. Um, so I go home and then I'm napping every day. I start to experience, I remember one day waking up super disoriented, wondering why am I here in New York? Like how did I get from California to New York? Why would I be here? I want to go back home. And then I got it. I picked up the car keys, tried to drive away. And then that's like the final moment where my sister, she was very concerned because obviously something was clearly wrong if I'm being mentally affected. So
Mhm.
she took me to the ER. I was admitted there. My memory is a little bit foggy from what happened during that time, but
Mhm.
eventually I was initially diagnosed with mixed connective tissue disease and then finally with systemic lupus with organ involvement. It was found that I had stage 4 kidney disease and inflammation in the brain, which explained the memory loss. And so even to this day, there's like a chunk of memory missing from that time. Like my final years in California, I lived there for 4 years. I have a lot of experiences that I do not remember,
Mhm.
and some experiences in the summer of 2019 when I was in New York at that time. And then I started treatment, and that's my lupus story.
Mhm.
Wow, Camille, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm really glad that your work environment was supportive. But even without support, I know that it's hard to take a step back from work. And tell me more about that decision and if that really made a difference in the long run.
Absolutely. So I stayed home from August to November, and during that time, I was still very fatigued, but I got a lot of rest. And I also started my medication at that time. But the time off from work was definitely beneficial. Even to this day, when the less I work, the better I feel. So I I'm happy that that decision was made.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, and that's a very hard decision to make, and I think sometimes our viewers might want to hear that like it's okay to step back if it's going to help you and help you get where you need to be. So, thank you. So I guess I want to go into this. You know, we're here talking about hair specifically, and you mentioned you had some hair loss. Can you tell us, maybe take us back to the moment that you noticed maybe some shedding, or what did it look like? What did it feel? What did you do?
So, looking in hindsight, I realized that I had hair loss about 2 years before my initial symptoms with the joint pain. At the time, I didn't realize it, but I had a very unusual pattern of hair loss in the front top of my head. And I recognized it when I went to the hairstylist to get a specific, I wanted hair extensions, and the hairstylist just was so confused about like, why is my hair so short in this specific section? And she, I thought that was just me not taking care of my hair. At the time, I did not realize that it was correlated with lupus until just recently, actually. So I don't really do anything about it at the time. But then after diagnosis, probably like spring 2020, even though I was being treated, I just started noticing like severe, like thinning all over, like in all parts of my head. And so I cut it off. And after it started growing back, then it started growing back in a little bit more full.
Hmm. Listen, I'm a fan of a big chop. I'll tell you that right now. I feel like that challenge sometimes is like, oh, you don't realize how many symptoms you might have had before your diagnosis and when they kind of show up until you have these conversations with others. You're like, wait, that's a part of this? Oh no, you know. And so I guess you shared what you did. You just cut it off and it kind of started filling out. But I guess, what do you think has helped you move forward and be this hope for others in living with lupus? Like what, dealing with everything and misdiagnoses and things of that nature. What has helped you?
Certainly, the support of my family, that has been a huge help. Yeah, I mean, my family looks out for me. Like if there's something that I'm missing, they're able to point it out for me, and they're also very supportive in the sense of like just helping me to slow down. I tend to want to do a lot all at once, and they're there to remind me, just to slow down and to support me in whatever ways that I need.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, this has been so helpful, Camille, and thank you for sharing. We have you back a little bit later in the show, so we'll pull Camilla in.
Yes, we're gonna welcome our next guest. Everybody, wait, we have to put some purple hearts in the chat for Camilla Gilliard, and we're so happy to have you here with us today. And Camille just told us her lupus story, and so it is your turn. You're in the hot seat. Tell us your lupus story.
Okay, well, I'm happy to be here, first of all. Happy to see you guys.
Thank
And
you.
my lupus journey begins around the age of 12, 13, kind of the onset of puberty. And it's crazy because one of my first symptoms was actually hair loss. Um, Coupled with that was extreme fatigue. No matter how much I slept, it was never enough. I was always tired. And then I started losing weight unexplainably. And then there were random fevers. And I knew that something was wrong. Like, I know my body, you know your body better than anybody. So I knew something wasn't quite right. And I was in and out of the emergency room like every other month with a different symptoms. And when you're going to the ER, you're obviously seeing different doctors. So the doctor would treat the symptom that I showed up with, but
Mhm.
no one actually connected the dots until much later. After going in and out of the ER so many times, the doctors were like, we don't know what's wrong with her, and came to the conclusion that I was probably making up some symptoms and I was also probably dealing with depression. So they suggested to my parents that I get psychiatric help. So around the time that I was presenting with depression, I also started to present with the butterfly rash, with the mallow rash on my face. And so I went to see the psychiatrist, and she took one look at me and she was like, I'm having you tested for lupus. Something ain't right. And it's not just that you're sad, something else is going on. So
Wow.
then I started getting testing for lupus. And there's no one specific test that diagnosed you, but putting all of the symptoms together, finally connecting the dots, led to my diagnosis at 17. But like I said, my symptoms started 5 years before that. I would wake up with hair on my pillow, too much hair coming out in the brush, hair coming out in the shower. And funny story, I went to my dad, who's always been very supportive, and I said, I need to cut my hair off because it's patchy. There's missing spots. It's all different lengths. It looks crazy, and I feel crazy walking around like this. So my dad said, okay, we'll find a beautician for you. And at this point, I had moved up to Syracuse, even though I'm a New Yorker for life. I had moved up to Syracuse, and so we went driving around, and we found a beautician. We went into the shop, and so I was almost in tears. And I asked her, I said, I really feel like I need to cut my hair off. Could you help me? And she said, she looked at my head and she said, yeah, I can help you, baby. What do you want to do? And I said, can you make me look like Tony Braxton? And she said, I sure can. And that's like such a full circle moment because it was 25 years later that Tony found out that she had lupus. So
Wow.
I heard that she had lupus. I was like, man, like my role model. Like I've been looking up to you since I had to get my hair cut at 13. So I went through many different hair stages. I had the Tony Braxton, I had the Halle Berry, I had TLC, T-Boz. So my hair journey has been crazy.
Mm.
I love that you turned into a positive and just experienced all these different hairstyles. But going back to your story, can you share with us what's been the hardest thing for you dealing with your lupus?
The hardest thing has been having to fall down and get back up multiple times. Like
Mm.
you always fall off the horse. There's always another flare up coming. And when you're as ambitious as I am, it's hard. It's hard to take time to take a moment and say, I need to sit still. I need to pause and sit down and let my body recover because there's so many things that you want to accomplish, so many things that you want to do. And it's like climbing a ladder and you get 3 rungs from the top and you get knocked off. So having to find the perseverance and the persistence and the strength to get back up takes time,
Mm.
but you have to get back up.
And I mean, you are definitely somebody that's resilient. I mean, I know you personally, and I've seen the things you've like navigated and figured out. And I mean, and guess to also go back to the hair loss idea of it, for you to even see this thing going wrong, and you're like, I'm gonna figure this out, cut it out, made me gone ahead and taper this up. That's definitely an attitude. What do you think gives you that fierceness that allows you to have that attitude about, like something, girl, we like to look cute, and you always make sure you do. What is it that really helped you? I guess at least with that part, you've been in pageants before. You definitely were a beauty queen, Miss Penn State. Yeah, that's a throwback for those.
It's a throwback. Yeah.
But with that, like, how did you make peace with like this aspect of beauty for yourself?
I think that my faith had a lot to do with it. I'm a very faithful, very spiritual person, and I've always been ambitious. So I'm the type that's like, look, I have goals, and I'm going to reach those goals no matter what. Just like I was instructed not to go to college because it was going to be too hard, too stressful on my body, and I went and I got those degrees. So I think just having to move forward, to know that you can't stay stagnant. You have to get up and you have to go if you're going to have a life, and you can have a life with lupus.
Mhm.
Yes, and that is such a perfect segue into what we're going to ask you about next, which is that you just came from Albany. You told me a little bit about this earlier, but you were at the state capitol a week ago. Share a little bit about what that was like.
That was amazing. It feels good to be heard and be seen. And a lot of times we say that this is an invisible disability. So people look at us and you can't just tell by looking at someone that they have lupus. Oftentimes you can't tell that they have lupus. You may see that they're struggling with something, but you don't automatically know that it's lupus. So to go to the Capitol, to get recognized by the legislators that this is Lupus Awareness Month in New York State, that's a big deal. And we go every year so that they don't forget us. Like we need our voices to be amplified. And being an advocate for me is kind of my why. Like I try to turn that negative into a positive. And for me, I want to be that mentor. I want to be that person that I didn't have in the 90s. I didn't have a mentor that was dealing with this, that could make it a little easier on me and explain things in a way, because sometimes nobody knows what you're dealing with really except you. But when you come across other lupus, it's there. They know what you're going through without you even having to explain it. Like, it's a look. It's, you can say one word and they get it. Like Chanel and I talk all the time, and it's like, "How are you doing?" And it's like, "Girl, how you doing, girl?" So it's just something that's known. It's a language all our own, and we get it, and we're supportive of each other. And that's what I like about my lupus community, my lupus village.
Oh, that's so amazing. That's so amazing. And I mean, I think there's so many ways to be an advocate, whether it is going to Capitol Hill or maybe, even just interpersonally, for others, that are doing this work or just doing this, like I'm telling people I have this thing, but definitely want to just say thank you so much for the work that you do on day in day out, to really really advocate. And so we'll be bringing you back to join us for some final thoughts, because
Okay.
you got to get the final thoughts with everybody together. But I'd like to bring in our next guest, who is an accomplished consultant in the health, beauty, technology, and legal industries. She is here to help us better understand, because we're better together. We're going to better understand lupus and hair loss. So please put some purple hearts in the chat as we welcome Dr. Dina to the virtual stage.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So glad to have you.
It's my
So
pleasure.
glad to have you, Dr. Dina. I know you see many patients who have lupus, systemic lupus. So what does that look like for you?
In terms of hair loss,
Yeah,
just
what
in
do you
general. So, I mean, lupus is very interesting because, many people will get hair loss throughout their lives, but people with lupus get more types of hair loss. And so there's hair loss that's associated with lupus specifically, and then there are other types of hair loss. So I evaluate patients the same, and then I try to figure out what they specifically have. So as I'm sure you know, there are many different kinds of hair loss or alopecia.
So just to go back to systemic lupus, what causes hair loss in systemic lupus?
So in systemic lupus, patients can get two things generally. It's usually a non-scarring type of hair loss, and you could get something like telogen effluvium, which is a general category of hair shedding, which could be caused by surgery, childbirth, COVID, lupus, nutritional deficiencies. So patients with lupus can get that, and that's kind of a diffuse shedding.
Mm-hmm.
And then some patients get what's called lupus hair, which is thought to be a type of telogen effluvium, but it's just in the front, kind of where the baby hairs are. Broken hair on the frontal hairline, not the edges the way people talk about with traction alopecia, which is from pulling.
Mm-hmm.
But it almost looks like female pattern hair loss, where women tend to lose it right in the front in the midline of the scalp, but it looks a little different. It's more like breakage rather than thinning.
Mm-hmm.
That would be an example of lupus hair.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Dina, we hear this term general alopecia or alopecia thrown around a lot. Can you, share some wisdom about lupus hair, as you mentioned, and alopecia, and maybe what the difference is?
So this is a very common misconception. All alopecia means is hair loss. It's the fancy medical term for hair loss. Sometimes people use it when they're specifically talking about alopecia areata, which is another type of autoimmune hair loss. And, some believe that that's more common in lupus, but then others believe that that might be a specific type of lupus hair loss that is not alopecia areata, but looks like it. And if you biopsy it, you'd see lupus in the area, not the changes of alopecia areata, which would look different under the microscope.
Amazing.
So it's, goodness. I'm like sitting here like, oh, my edge. I don't usually pull my hair back. So, but I guess when should somebody be concerned? When should they go to a dermatologist? Is it only when it's severe? And once they come to you, what was something as somebody with lupus, what should I do to manage my symptoms?
Well, I think anyone who's losing their hair, it's reasonable to go to a dermatologist because there are lots of things that can cause hair loss. And if you have lupus, I think you should go faster. I mean, there are other types of lupus that are more concerning in terms of hair loss, specifically discoid lupus, which tends to be localized. So in terms of the disease in general for your health, discoid lupus tends to be not as severe as I'm sure you all know, but it's very disfiguring on the skin. Like fewer people who have discoid lupus will get systemic lupus, but they can get scarred up. So that I would come in immediately, because once you have scarring, that means the hair follicles are destroyed, and there's some of that's going to be irreversible. And I often diagnose that. I mean, I often am the person who tells somebody they have lupus, and commonly it's from that specifically. And then people sometimes think they have dirty ears. They might have some spots like that on their scalp, and they say they have dirty ears, but it's really scarring and discoloration from discoid lupus.
Wow.
And then you can also have lupus paniculitis, which is just deeper in the fat, but the hair follicles can go down into the fat. That inflammation can go up. It's often associated with discoid lupus, and that can, again, just burn up the hair follicle, and that's permanent if it's destroyed.
You just made me go. I have to get an appointment with the dermatologist. That's what you just told me. I don't know if anybody else was out there watching, like, oh my gosh, I thought it was my ears, and you just diagnosed. You didn't diagnose me. I'll see a doctor. But thank you for clearing that up. That is really, really important and really helpful. And so I'm curious, is there, I guess, to differentiate the shedding part, the lupus shedding part, that part is, and I can't remember the technical term for it, but I can imagine that being also hard to determine, because there is a natural hair shedding process that happens, we know, right? How do I know, what's a way for me to figure out that maybe this is something that's more than just regular hair shedding and hair loss?
Well, you should notice a difference. I mean, we all lose between 100 and 150 hairs a day, but if you're suddenly losing a lot more, that would be of concern. So I think someone described earlier, the drain getting clogged, hair on your pillow, hair in your brush. You might tie your hair into a bun or ponytail, puff, and it's thinner, those types of things. So most people can determine that their hair is thinning when it actually is, and many people think it's thinning when it's not. But patients are very good at, if they actually are losing hair, people know.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this insight. I'm telling you, you just read me. You got me. And I think we don't always think about a dermatologist. We think about just our rheumatologist as part of our care team. And so thank you for really also highlighting the importance of why it's important to come to you, to people like you who are knowledgeable about lupus and understand how it can impact the skin in this specific way. And also, as a Black person, I think that there's, as a Black person, I know definitely being able to know and see the different textures of hair and understanding that's really, really important.
Dermatologists do a lot of the hard work and often do the initial diagnosing and send to us after. So we work together a lot.
That's right.
That's so great. Go team. Go team. Well, thank you, Dr. Dina, for sharing such helpful information. We're so excited to have you join us towards the end of the show to wrap this show up. But right now, we're actually going to go to our special segment here on Better Together called Spotlight on Research.
So Spotlight on Research is where we learn more about the path to developing new treatments. Today, we have Dr. Ashwin Boda, or Ashwin, who's joining us as we discuss the phases in the clinical trial. So Ashwin, please let us know where you are located. And wait, where is he?
Bring to our, there we go.
Hi, everybody. I was just wondering, where am I?
So
Hi, everyone.
I
am originally from India. I went to med school there, and I was interested in research. So I just came here to the United States, and right now I am in Texas, Dallas, and I've been here for almost 20 years now. So I call this home.
All right. Home sweet home. All right, Texas.
Yep.
Well, we are so excited to have you here, and thank you for all of the important work you do around research and for thinking of it as important enough, to not just go into just patient care, but also thinking about how to help find new treatments. Now, a lot of people are very confused about this part of things, especially we thought about the pandemic where everybody was like, you just got this vaccine. But really understanding a clinical trial is just so important for people to be able to understand, even it, making it an option. But can you explain to us, like, what are the different phases of a clinical trial? Maybe one
Sure.
by one, and just explain the differences between each.
Sure. So basically, it all starts with a molecule. The scientists come up with the molecule, and then what is known as the preclinical testing happens. They test it, and that is, I guess, when anyone talks about research, everybody thinks it's guinea pigs, right? You ask 100 people, probably 90 would say guinea pigs. That is where, the preclinical trials are conducted on animals. So that is where the whole guinea pig, perception comes in. So once, and that is done to see if the product or the molecule is safe to be administered in humans. Once it's deemed safe, the next phase is called a phase zero, which is where the medication is given to healthy people. And we want to see more about how the drug interacts in the body and how it affects, if there are any kind of side effects, is it safe? So once it passes that phase, the phase one trials start. Now, those are very, very limited in terms of number, and they are given to patients who have the disease to see A, if it is safe or not, and B, what kind of dose levels are we looking at. So they are trials where we have what is called a ascending dose. So the first few patients in the trial are given a certain dose. If that is deemed safe, then we go up to the next higher dose to see at which point do we achieve the best effect as well as is the safe dose.
Okay,
So
really
if
quick, just to paraphrase, just trying to paraphrase it. So zero, because I guess I didn't even realize there was a zero phase. Zero phase is just in healthy people, is people that
yes,
don't have lupus or the illness, just to see if it's okay.
correct,
Thank
correct.
you. I just wanted to make sure I highlighted that because I didn't know that until you shared that. I know phase one, but I did not think about phase zero. Sorry.
Right. And
Continue.
I mean, after phase one, we move on to no big guesses. It's really phase two. And in phase two, we again are looking, for patients who have the disease, but it's a limited number of people. We are talking about less than 100 people. The phase two is conducted to see, it's now focused on the efficacy. Okay, now through phase one, we know that there are a couple of doses. We have identified those doses. Now in phase two, we want to give it to the patients and see which of the doses work better and obviously which is safe in patients who have the active disease. Now, if the results of the phase two are good, then we move on to phase three, which is kind of where we open it up to the general, more number of people. And by more, I'm talking about 300 to 500 patients on an average.
Mm.
The idea is, sure, in phase two, it works in a few people, but what about the general population? So that's the whole idea of phase three. And usually, phase threes are the drug is compared to a placebo. So they are called double blind, where neither the patient knows if they're getting the drug or not, versus the doctor doesn't know that either. So once we have the data on these placebo controlled trials, then all of that is basically submitted to the FDA. And if approved, that's where the drug goes on the pharmacy shelves and your doctor is able to prescribe it to you.
Ashwin, can you clarify two terms for our viewers? One is placebo, because I'm not sure everyone knows what that is, and then also what the FDA, is.
Okay, the placebo is basically They used to call it sugar pills in the past, but then now with diabetes on the rise, we don't call it a sugar pill per se, but it is a substance that looks like the drug, but it has no medicinal effect. So it is given in clinical trials to see if it is really the drug working. Like, for example, a patient might think they're getting the drug, and so they automatically tend to start to feel better.
The
I did
placebo
not
effect.
believe I did not believe this in the past, but I actually was part of a clinical trial where we gave the patients placebo versus the drug, and there were patients, we knew about the results later on. We kind of knew which patient got what. But there were a few patients who were not able to walk, and then they got the shots of the drug, and magically they start moving in their yard.
Listen, the placebo,
And
it's the placebo
I'm
effect,
like,
right?
okay, that's great. Initially, I thought, wow, this drug is really working. Come to know that they actually got the placebo. So there is a definite placebo effect, in which, it's not just the patients, it's even the doctors who feel the symptoms are better than what they actually are, because they think that the patient is getting the drug. So that is a reason why we have this whole placebo concept, to
Mhm,
take that bias out of the whole equation and
mhm,
get the actual results. So
mhm,
once the drug is approved, then we still need to know more about, the safety. So
mhm,
that is where the whole phase 4, also called the post-market studies, come in, and they keep going on. If in the phase 4 trials there are some safety issues that are identified, then the FDA, which is the Federal Drug Administration, that is able to give out some warnings, and in some cases actually pull the drug off the market.
mhm.
So
So that final phase, just to clarify everyone, the medication has been approved, but there's still data and information that we're collecting that you're, discussing with this post-marketing period.
yes.
Okay, that's good to know because I think there are a lot of people that think, okay, once it's out there, it's doing whatever it's doing, but the idea that it's still being studied is important. And
And
what
actually, sorry to interrupt. It's
okay?
the typical drug development pathway. It takes about 15 years on an average, from the phase 1 all the way through phase 3, the end of phase 3 and approval.
Wow.
So, yeah, it is a long process.
So what are some reasons that a drug could get stuck or discontinued in a phase? Like, is it just severe, or are there other things, that other factors that might make it really challenging for new treatments to be able to come to market?
So the first reason is the safety. There are drugs that might be really effective, but they might just not be safe. There might be patients who are getting very sick, and that would be the first reason why drugs would not be developed. And the other one is there is no efficacy. We see some effectiveness, but then is it really worth getting a new drug which is probably not effective?
Hmm.
So the safety and efficacy are really the two reasons why the drugs do not get, or they don't go into the phase 2, phase 3 phases as well.
So not so it either it's not safe, and we find that out pretty early on. You tend to find that out like in those first couple of phases. But and or also the other side of it is it's just not, you're better off with whatever we have right now. It's not necessarily making as big a deal or big a help as it could be, which makes it not worth to kind of continue. Is that
That
fair?
is correct. That is
Okay.
correct. And I know, the whole research versus clinical trials, there is a lot of negative perception about them, given the history. We had a lot going on in the past about um, people just being experimented on.
Yeah.
Just want to take this opportunity to clarify that clinical trials are not experimenting. Number one, the patients are told about the possible side effects. So essentially, whatever the clinical trial team knows, that whole information is conveyed to the patients. And at that point, the patients are free to make a decision and see, if this is what they want to be a part of or no. So that's one big thing that has people don't really know about that. So the whole experimentation aspect is not true. The other connotation is obviously that, why do I want to be in a trial when I don't even know if I'm getting the drug or not? So it is important because, as I said, we need to set the biases aside to get good results as far as knowing if the drug works or not. So yeah, just wanted to clarify that these are the two main questions I get when I talk to patients about
Like
clinical trials.
you're like, no, we're not mad scientists. This is not an experiment. These are actual people trying to help find treatments.
That's right.
Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
So, just quickly, could you tell us where, with all your knowledge, you see that lupus treatments have trouble getting through the different phases?
So typically, it's phase two is where the treatments kind of get stuck. They are not, and most of the treatments don't go through to phase three because of the effectiveness. Unfortunately, we don't. Yeah, we don't really have a whole lot of good treatments, as you all know. So we look at the effectiveness, and some drugs might be great in preventing the arthritis, and but then the other aspects of research, other aspects of lupus, they might not be so good at it. So these are the really big reasons as to why the drugs don't make it to the next phase. But yeah, phase two is where most of the that tends to be the bottleneck.
And we have
Thank
a question. Thank you. And we have a question from the audience. Does a patient have to give up their current treatment? Am I getting off of all my medication and now I'm like in this research, clinical trial, and now I have to just take what they give me?
That's a great question. So each clinical trial is different. Some are designed to be where it's supposed to be an add-on therapy. Some do not want you to take anything. But I would say about 90% of trials do not need patients to get off of their basic standard of care treatments. Yes, if they are taking biologic treatments, we don't want to give two immunosuppressants at the same time. So it kind of makes sense that, yeah, you need to get off one immunosuppressant and then you start receiving the other one. But yeah, standard of care, we do not want to have our patients get off of their standard of care medications.
Oh, well, thank you so much for breaking that all down. I mean, really helping us understand each phase and helping us see the amazing work that you're doing in trying to you're actually directing a site running trials, and that's a beautiful thing to try to find ways to bring more treatments into market. And I think understanding the process helps us make sense of the whole thing and allows people to make better decisions, whether it is to be involved in one or not. Just knowing more is helpful, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. And I do have to say, it's a very humbling experience seeing people go about their lives who have lupus, like Camille and Camilla, just hearing their stories. It just is amazing at what they do in spite of what they are going through. This is a very hard disease. So it is really humbling. And over the years, I have seen patients who have improved. So that again is it's a very rewarding feeling. At the end of the day, I go back home and I actually feel like I am making a difference. So yeah, it's a very rewarding feeling.
Oh, awesome. See, look, you just warmed my whole heart. The fact that you feel you're like, I'm healing people and you smile so brightly. I just feel like this is all out of your heart. It's radiating out of you. Well, thank you so much for sharing and bringing spreading this really.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again. And now we're going to bring back our guests for some closing thoughts and responses. So, everybody, welcome back to the stage. Camille, Camilla, and Dr. Dina. And just bringing you all back together because we have to wrap the show up.
Well, we always ask for final tips or advice that you have for our viewers, but specifically today, talking about the impact of hair loss. And you guys have all shared some pearls, but maybe you could leave a final thought. We have to start with you, Dr. Dina, then.
Okay. Well, this month is also Skin Cancer Awareness Month. And I was just thinking about this because I wasn't aware until you all mentioned that it's Lupus Awareness Month. And there is a connection between skin cancer and lupus because lupus can cause chronic ulcers and chronic inflammation in the skin, and that can cause squamous cell carcinoma, regardless of your skin color. So it's very important for people who have lupus to have a relationship with a dermatologist.
Amazing. So make an appointment with your friendly dermatologist.
And think about your skin. Okay, I thank you for bringing up. 2 weeks ago, we had Dr. Victoria Worth talk about the importance of sunscreen. So even for us brown folk, we need to have sunscreen on as well, right? So thank you so much. Let's see, Camille. What advice do you maybe have, or tips that you might have for somebody just navigating hair loss or hair challenges?
Just to continue to listen to their bodies, definitely see the doctor, and just stick to whatever medical advice or medication that's given to them.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you. Camilla, what's your advice? So what's your tip or your something that you think would be just really helpful for somebody with that with dealing with this step?
I would say to my fellow Lupies, don't forget to give yourself some grace. Lupus is hard and it robs us of so much. It can rob us of fertility, our quality of life, and tangibly the way we look, our hair, like we're talking about. Don't be afraid to define your own beautiful. I mean, if it's a wig you need, get you a wig, okay? There was a point when I was in chemotherapy and I had to shave my head. I was completely bald. And at first I was self-conscious about that. But then I said, you know what? This is me. And this is me now. This is not always going to be me. But I have to define beauty for myself and not necessarily by society standards.
Yes. Listen, a wig, okay? Especially with everybody, and I know that there are different implications for wigs and things of that nature, but definitely understanding sometimes you need to make yourself look a little something something for yourself to feel good.
Feel
I think
yourself,
that
feel yourself. Yes.
we're definitely allowed to. I'm curious, Dr. Dina. I didn't know if there was a comment there or there's a thought there about that side of things.
Wigs are so popular, people without hair loss are wearing them. So I don't see why it would be a big deal if you do have hair loss to wear it if that's going to make you feel better. People who have thick hair come into the office all the time with wigs.
Thank you. And Dr. Michaela, what's your thoughts or advice that you leave with?
I think there's an important piece here that Dr. Dina kind of hit on, which is although we think about hair loss with lupus, there are a lot of things that can cause hair thinning, hair loss. So I think that's why it's so important to partner with the dermatologist, because we don't always want to blame everything on the lupus, and really make sure we have a good idea of what else could be contributing to it.
Definitely.
I agree.
See, there you go. So for me, I'll give some advice because that was not that I would say that that was the symptom that made me go to the doctor. Listen, sometimes we get so used to one part and one side. Maybe we just need to switch to the other side. Or I do believe in going to your local friendly hairstylist and being like, all right, how do I figure this out? What can we do that can switch this up and make this look a little sexy, a little fine? What can we do to do that? And I think that sometimes we do have to take these moments for ourselves to like really like Camilla said, like revamp our beauty, or maybe just change a look, or maybe it's time for a new haircut, or maybe we thought that our hair needed to be this length for it to look a certain way, but maybe there's some power. And I definitely did the big chop. I wish my hair would act up. I'd probably cut it all off tomorrow. but realizing that beauty is definitely more than just what we see outside, and that one way that we look doesn't always mean that that's the only beautiful we can be. So that would be my advice to everybody here. But I really think that it's really important. I'm so happy we're able to have this conversation, because here's just a sensitive topic, and for so many, it's something that we don't really talk about, especially now. And I know that, as Dr. Michaela said, there's so many reasons why people have hair loss. Now we're hearing more conversation around perimenopause and hair thinning being a part of that. And just making sure that we're all just taking time to pay attention. And I think that this conversation definitely might help somebody pay attention out there. I did have one final question, because we have a little bit more time. I did have one final question. I'm sorry, I might be just spitballing really quickly to you, Dr. Dina. One more question. Are there hair products that we should avoid that might also add or contribute to hair thinning and hair thinning and challenges?
That's a hard question to answer, because there's certainly many things that wouldn't be appropriate to put in your hair. I don't have a specific product to say not to use. You have to go by how your hair is responding. I'd say that people are using a lot of products, sometimes too many products, and are a little physically rough with their hair. People who have curly, kinky hair, your hair is naturally more delicate. It's drier, so it's more prone to breaking. So you have to think about it where you're hydrating your hair, and then you're putting some type of fat over your hair to seal the water into your hair. So we want to shampoo less frequently, but not infrequently. So you want to shampoo at least once a week. If you go past once a week, you're probably going to get seborrheic dermatitis, which is dandruff, but it can look very crusty on the scalp. And in fact, sometimes people get such severe seborrheic dermatitis, it looks like discoid lupus. And we biopsy it because it's very crusty. But you want to shampoo at least once a week. And then I recommend deep conditioning once a week, and then using some type of fatty hair product that helps keep the water in your hair.
Thank you. I'm definitely about to wash my hair for tomorrow. So a big day tomorrow, but I'll make sure I do that hydration and that deep conditioner. And I mean, this has been so great. Thank you so much, Camilla, Dr. Dina Strawn, as well as our Spotlight on Research guest, Dr. Ashwin Boda. Thank you so much for your time and advice this evening. We definitely just want to say thank you.
We have so many people to thank. We can never forget our viewers, both our regular viewers, our new viewers, for joining us tonight. Chanel, we can't forget that we have to send a very special thank you to Biogen. They're making this show possible. And if anyone is interested in getting more information, we shared a lot of information today, but if you need more information about lupus, information about participating in clinical trials, you can use the camera on your phone, scan this QR code, or you can go to biogentriallink.com, BOIGN, triallink.com, and you can see that right there on the bottom of the screen. You can use the QR code right here. If you're interested in a specific lupus clinical study, scroll to the bottom of that website and you can learn more. So we'll be sharing this link and the QR code that you see right here again at the end of the show, just in case you miss it right now. You can get your camera ready for the end. And you can also see the chat for a direct link. So please check those out.
And do not forget to join us on our Instagram page at 4, Better Together Lupus, and also on Facebook at Better Together Lupus. So you can also check out past episodes in the video section of this platform that you're on to learn more about living your best life with lupus.
Yes, and we're excited to have you join us again. As always, we have exciting shows coming up. Our next show will be in 2 weeks on May 27th. Tuesday again, and our next show is going to be the genetic code of lupus. So we're going to be learning more about lupus and genes, and I'm sure we have some exciting guests in store for that. So to close us out, let's hear some more spoken word from Chanel.
I am my hair. I am the color of the richest soil. My hair be the leaves to match my roots, and I don't just bloom. I don't just grow, y'all. I bloom. Able to match the energy of any room. And they say your hair is your scalp's protection. But I learned that there's an emotional, psychological connection, a sign of struggle or bliss, a symbol of liberation or subjugation. And Shay and Jojoba can heal my strands, but inside of me always needs calibration. See, I am my hair, and these hands fight like my strands, coiled into small fists no one would mess with. Now I am my hair, and this hair breaks combs the way I break glass ceilings. I am my hair, rough around the edges, and some days me and my hair just don't agree. But this battle really isn't with my hair, it's within me. Learning to accept who it is in a world where one type of curl is the only one that sometimes gets placed on marquees. I am my hair, and I am all of this, and I am not stagnant. I am not a monolith. I am legacy. I am greatness. I am my hair, a descendant of Nandi and Makeda, not just the sugarcane sharecroppers, but the queen of Sheba. See, I am my hair. I am the heir of a kingdom where my beauty is all my own. And this is the year where I and my hair reclaim our rightful throne. Thank you so much. Please have a good night. See you in 2 weeks. Take care.